All right, what's up everyone? So today we're gonna be discussing a new 2017 paper that was published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research. And I just wanna quickly go over this study design. I think that this study is gonna convince a lot of you that maybe you aren't training quite as hard as you could be or as hard as you should be. So this study basically took 160 males and they all had at least 6 months of training experience, and the bench press was a regular part of their training routine. And they were asked by the researchers what would be a typical weight that you would use for a set of 10 reps. So this doesn't necessarily have to be their 10 rep max, just a weight that they would choose on a normal day going into the gym for a set of 10. And then the researchers put them in the gym or put them in the lab and actually had them carry out a set with that weight, except they took it to failure instead of stopping at 10 reps. And what they wanted to figure out was how many reps on average are your typical trainees leaving in the tank when they perform a set, especially on the bench press. For this video, I actually managed to hunt down one of the researchers on this study, and he decided to come in with us today, and he actually brought in one of his subjects as well, and they're gonna take us through an example of what the study design would look like for educational purposes. So we're gonna go chat with them right now. Okay, so guys, I'm here with the professor from the study, and we've recruited one of the subjects. His name is Stefan, and I'm gonna let them take it over from here. Okay, thanks, Jeff. So guys, I'm here with Stefan, and Stefan, what we're gonna do for you today is we're gonna imagine that you're going into the gym, so it's just a Monday chest day. And we've got a quick exercise for you to do. You're gonna do a quick warm up, and then you're gonna jump into a working set on the bench press. You're gonna be doing 10 reps. So what's a weight that you think you'd use for a working set for 10 reps?
Right now I'm like, I got this shoulder thing, so I'm just gonna be modest. I'm gonna start with the bar. I'm just gonna start with the bar.
Okay, so Stefan is gonna go with 45 pounds, just the bar, because he has a shoulder issue. Normally what we do is we pyramid up, so we do a simple loading pyramid as a warm up. In your case, we're just gonna do some simple dynamic stretches and then jump right into the working weight. And what we're gonna do is you're actually gonna take that 45-pound weight to failure. So you're gonna do as many reps as you can, all right? So let's get right into that set right now.
Let's do it.
All right, Stefan, you're good and warmed up. Let's see what you can do with 45 pounds when going at maximal exertion. Let's go. So guys, Stefan managed to get 16 reps with what would be a normal 10 rep weight. So basically, if that's what you'd normally do for 10 reps, you actually have 6 reps that you're leaving in the tank most times, right? So this is actually an important finding because the average in this study was 16 reps. So you hit right on the average.
Some average.
Now, I noticed that you probably stopped a little bit shy of failure. I didn't notice that you probably could have actually gotten maybe a rep or 2 more there. And where Stefan is injured, you'd probably be excluded from the actual study. But for educational purposes, you fall right in the average, which I think is really interesting. So we're gonna head over to the whiteboard right now and talk about what the results of the study were. So remember, there were 160 subjects in total. 0%, so not a single subject got less than 10 reps. So every single subject was able to do more reps with the weight that they typically use on the bench press. 22% got 10 to 12 reps, basically meaning they're working somewhere in an RPE of 8 to 10. 31% of subjects, this was the biggest group, had 3 to 5 reps left in the tank. They were 3 to 5 reps over what they normally do. 21% had 16 to 18. They were leaving 6 to 8 reps in the tank. And this is extremely impressive or depressing, depending on how you want to look at it. 26% of subjects got 19 to 20 or more reps, meaning they were practically doubling the reps that they typically do in the gym. And if you think about it, depending on how you define RPE, the subjects who got more than 20 reps, so they were leaving more than 10 reps in the tank, technically training at a negative RPE, an RPE less than 0. This applied to 13% of the study subjects. And over 40% of the study subjects were training at an RPE 4 or lower. So do these results imply that all, or at least most, of the subjects in this study are simply not training hard enough? Well, I think so, yes. However, there are some alternative explanations. First, I think it's important to point out that the majority of subjects were training for hypertrophy as their primary goal, and 80% of the subjects typically did the bench press first in their workout. This is important because had the subjects been accustomed to doing the bench press later on in the training session, they may have performed better in this study simply because they were fresher than they'd normally be. However, I don't think this was a significant confounding variable because 80% of subjects did perform it early in the workout. So again, the fact that most of these trainees did have the primary goal of hypertrophy, I think that these results are enlightening because we know from previous research that there is a certain intensity threshold that you need to cross in order to see really significant muscle hypertrophy. And that threshold isn't perfectly clear, but it's probably somewhere around an RPE of 7. So if you're leaving more than 3 reps in the tank for most of your sets, then you're probably leaving some gains on the table. And certainly training at an RPE of 4 or lower is just a guaranteed way to leave a lot of gains on the table. Another interesting point here is it's been shown in other research that when subjects are being supervised, perhaps by a coach or in this case a researcher, they're more likely to perform better and to have a better work ethic. It's like they're trying to impress the other person or people who are in the room. And that could be playing in here. However, I don't think it would account for the huge disparity that you're seeing between the actual reps achieved when taken to failure and the typical reps that are achieved on a day-to-day basis. I don't think it quite bridges that gap alone. And on the flip side, I could see it as being the case that some subjects might come in and want to impress the researcher from the outset, and they might actually over-report the weight that they typically use as a way to sort of brag. So I think that this would sort of cancel out, and I don't think that this sort of researcher presence bias is really coming into play here. Another study I think is important to highlight here is that by Steele and colleagues, where they set up a similar study design to this one, but they sort of flipped the question around a little bit. So instead of asking subjects, what's a normal weight you'd use for 10 reps? They said, here's a normal weight you do. How many reps do you think you could get with that set weight? So using Stefan as an example, we'd probably get a different answer if I'd asked him, how many reps do you think you can get with 45 pounds? He may have said something like, 13 or 14 reps. It doesn't mean that that's the reps he typically do. It just means if he did go to failure, that's how many he thinks he'd get. So that was the question that this study was looking at. They were looking at what they thought their max reps would be with a set specific load. And on average, the subjects underestimated how many reps they'd get by 3 to 4 reps. So what this study tells us basically is that people, especially beginners, are bad at gauging their RPE, particularly by 3 to 4 reps. So if we look at the present study, we see that people on average were getting 16 reps with their usual 10 rep weight. So they were actually able to get 6 more reps than they would normally use. And from this study, we know that people are usually bad at estimating their proximity to failure by 3 to 4 reps. So I think that combining these two, we can conclude that probably half of this 6, half is coming from being bad at RPE, and the other half is coming from being lazy or just the discomfort that's involved in taking a set closer to failure. I think that all things considered, this study is an important reminder that many of us probably could stand to benefit from taking our sets a little closer to failure, not being afraid to push outside of that comfort zone. And it's also an important reminder that especially those more in the beginner level are sometimes bad at judging how close they are to failure. And that's something that you want to get more psychologically acquainted with. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching the video. I really hope that this was helpful. I want to give a huge shout out to Stefan for being a good sport and being very enlightening for us all, I'm sure. Make sure you check out his channel. I'm going to put his button right there, and you can go subscribe. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it. I've also got the whole article about this. This whole video is based off of a fantastic review by Eric Helms. You can check that out in the description box if you'd like to subscribe to Mass. Also, we're both gonna be at the LA Fit Expo. So if you're going, hit us up. We're gonna be at the PE Science booth. I'll have the details in the description. See you guys next time.